And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird right here from Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockman along with you on this 10-game Friday slate, talking about the National Basketball Association. Dave, how you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad. 10 games to finish out the week. New year. Could be worse.
Could be. I continue to date everything as 2018, and I probably will do that for another 3 or 4 weeks. It's a lot of fun to do it, especially on files. I keep doing it on files I'm sending, and it's not turning out very well because I have things dated as 2018 already. But anyway,
I haven't needed to date anything, so that's kind of cool.
Good for you. You date the articles, don't you, when you upload them?
Yeah, I get it right, though.
Oh,
I get it right.
I see how it is. All right, we have a 10-game slate ahead of us. We do have some injuries that we know are already locked and loaded. Kyrie Irving is out already with that scratched cornea. That will be an injury that I guess we just have to monitor. Terry Rozier came up pretty well on Wednesday night. Know he was over 30 DraftKings points. Don't know what his final total was.
39.
There you go. Not that Dave had that in his back pocket or anything, but
Any other injuries? Seeing it, man.
I know.
I've got a photogenic memory.
You don't say.
Photograph. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
We have tons of other questionable tags and other issues here and injuries. Anything that pops off the page, first glance here for where you think we may have issues when it comes to players out or players who may be questionable leading up to lineup lock on Friday night.
Yeah, when you have 10 games and it feels like March already, you're going to have a lot of questionable players for sure. I mean, look, with Kyrie Irving news is obviously big, but there's a whole lot more. So I guess we'll just jump right into it here and then move along to the positions. Irving out, as you pointed, yeah, Rozier had a solid game. Rozier's price has come up quite dramatically, though. Pretty decent matchup against Dallas. Be interested to see what the ownership looks like. Mike Conley's questionable here. He finished with 0 points in 28 minutes against Detroit. 3.75 fantasy points. I don't know what was going on. If he just had an awful game, I shot 0 for 8 there, or maybe he was actually dealing with an injury. So Conley is questionable here. And then Derrick Rose is doubtful again in this home tilt with the Magic. Jeff Teague is questionable for this game.
And Bob Cove is out too in that one. So
yep, and Robert Covington is out as well. So we have a pretty good idea of what the minutes should look like there. We'll get a similar scenario to Wednesday. Even if Teague plays, well, we'll talk about that. Ricky Rubio is questionable, which could mean that Dante Exum gets some extended run again. That could be nice. Who else here? We had a few more. Dwayne Wade is still questionable for this game. I only bring that up because it's actually a really good spot against Washington. Maybe we get some good low-end value there. We'll see. Who else?
LeBron is out. LeBron is out again. So.
Oh, yeah. We should probably mention LeBron James, of course. Kyle Kuzma got injured, too.
Yep.
He has a lower back contusion. Underwent that MRI. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would think he sits here. You know, he didn't return. He underwent MRIs. Generally, you miss a game or two when that's the case. Marcus Morris also left last game. He's questionable for this one against Dallas. So Boston could be pretty thin. And then Taurean Prince could make his return. We'll keep an eye on that. I don't see that making a huge impact, though. The same thing goes for guys like Alan Crabb, but he's actually been ruled out for another couple weeks. So if you still want to keep playing that wing value there, go ahead and do it. Not saying you do. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is also out already. Tough spot against Memphis, though, so you're probably not getting super stoked about that. I think we talked about this, too. Markieff Morris should be out for a little while. So
I want to read this and see if I can get it right.
Yeah, please.
He is out with a transient cervical neuroproxia and will be out for at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's an upper neck and upper back, lower neck issue.
Yeah. So Thomas Bryant, who's up to 6K on DraftKings, should continue to get a heap of minutes in the starting lineup. 2 consecutive excellent games, 36 minutes plus in both of them. Another one to keep an eye on, Miles Turner had that. I think he broke his nose, right? Yeah, Miles Turner broke his nose. They're expecting he could be back. He was apparently back at practice on Thursday, so we'll see where that takes us. But of course, if he's out, well, you know that's going to open up a whole lot for some guys like Domantas Sabonis, and even potentially a Kyle O'Quinn at minimum salary could see some additional run as well.
There we have it. Tons of injuries to keep track of. Dave always does a great job over on the deep dive when he writes Monday, Wednesday, Friday of sort of laying out what injuries you need to watch and what the scenarios are that may come from it. Then, of course, you do get the deep dive at 5 p.m. and live before lock leading up. That's free over on YouTube. You get the NBA strategy show, too, to kick off the morning at 9:15. So that is one you can typically tune into, see what news is broken overnight, what may have happened in the late games as we record the night before, and then content throughout the day. You need to be an Awesemo member to see the deep dive. You can get a free week by using the promo code EARLYBIRD, the name of this podcast, one word, over there at checkout. And then you get a free week of content, of all the content. Fantasy Crunch is still an add-on, but you get Awesemo's rankings, you get Dave's write-ups, you get Adam's write-ups when he writes, you get the projections from Josh, projections from Andrew, and a ton of other numbers behind the paywall, their ownership projections, and the like. So we do want to go position by position here as we break this down. We have just 3 players over 10K. So that, actually, it's only 2 players because LeBron is out. So that question I get to ask you at the end will be either Giannis or Russell Westbrook. You can ruminate on that throughout the show. But
I will.
We start at point guard where we have Russ at 11-3 against Portland. Devin Booker at 9K. Victor Oladipo is at 8-8. We have Irving out. Lillard, Ball, D'Angelo Russell coming off a big Nets win against New Orleans the other night. Russell put up 55.75 DraftKings points. I did not have him for the first time in what felt like forever. That is just the way my week has gone. And then we run through a bunch of other MPE eligible players here between point guard and shooting guard. Let's start at the top. Thoughts on Westbrook here against Portland, and then we can move on to some of the sub-10K point guards.
Dude, Westbrook's shooting is ungodly bad right now. I mean, it's so bad. I cannot believe how bad his shooting has been. And I mean, I'm well aware Westbrook's not the greatest shooter. Okay. No, he never has been the greatest shooter, but holy shit. I mean, this is rough. This is really, really rough. He shot 3 of 20 last game. 3 of 20, Dan. And as I pointed out to you on the podcast earlier this week, he needs to get up more shots at the rim.
Yep.
Right. He attempted seven threes in this game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 shots outside of the paint. I don't get it. Right. Like, get to the damn rim. And dude, he's one of the greatest players in the game. He's arguably the best athlete in the game, but just get to the rim. And you can't tell me that it's impossible for him to get to the rim. If you just watch him, like he's talented enough that he can get there. I won't say at will, but you can certainly convert more than 3 field goal attempts into actual buckets. And 2 of his last 3 games, he shot 3 for 20 and 4 for 22. Crazy bad numbers, right? Over his last 3 games, he is 1 for 16 from 3-point range.
Yep.
I mean, this is really, really bad. It's really, really bad. If you look since the start of December, it doesn't get much easier, right? You would think that, okay, well, if you zoom out a little bit, things have gotten a little bit better for Russell Westbrook, but that would not be the case because it would be like 33, 34 days or something. He's shooting 37%, 25% from 3. And the truth is, this is like right around his season averages. He is really struggling. That's the bad part. Here's the good part. Russell Westbrook shot 3 of 20 the other day, and he still had 60 fantasy points. I mean, think about that. This dude made 3 shots, attempted 20, shot 15% from the field, and had 60 fantasy points. Yes, you best believe that I have plenty of interest in him here today because like we saw against Phoenix, when he does get to the rim, when he does actually convert on these shots, he's going to smash. He still has as much upside as anybody. It comes down to him or Giannis. I mean, Giannis against Atlanta, phenomenal spot, and we'll get to that as well. But how long does that game stay competitive, if at all, right? If at all. You look at the spreads on these games. The Thunder, it's even money right now with a 223.5 total. Milwaukee, 14-point favorites. Pace up spot for sure. And I'm going to have some Giannis, but he might not play more than 26 minutes in this one like he did against Detroit. At least in blowouts, Westbrook gives you 30, 31 minutes. So I think the matchup is markedly better for Giannis. There's no question. But Westbrook is not someone that I'm fading simply because Giannis has a good matchup with Atlanta that could turn sideways or upside down if that game gets out of hand. So, yeah, I got plenty of love for him. Mike Conley, if he plays, I actually really like this as a bounce-back spot, right? Played 28 minutes, shot 0 for 8, had no points, 3 fantasy points in a 8-point loss to Detroit. It was just it was maybe the worst game of his entire career. Had to have been. I can't think of a better game than that or a worse game than that across actual like 25 plus minutes. He's come down to 7,400. He's got a home matchup with Brooklyn. And while Brooklyn doesn't play at a fast pace, this is still a team that has a pretty bad defense and one that does not concern me at all. I mean, you're looking at a team that plays at a slow pace, but still is giving up, some pretty wild numbers in terms of their opponents. Like they play at the 21st fastest pace, and then defensive rating they rank 21st. But let me just pull this up. So 21st in both or defensive rating and pace, and then points allowed. Brooklyn is where are you? I can't find them. Oh yeah, here you go. 22nd. So you play at one of the slowest paces in the league, and you're still allowing the 8th most points. They're not a very good defense, even though they've played better. If Conley plays and he's not limited, I think it's a really good spot to get back on him. And I think there's going to be a lot of people with plenty of reasons to fade him. At that salary, I'm on board for sure. Donovan Mitchell, we'll get to him. Ricky Rubio, if he plays against Cleveland, this is a spot where I wouldn't mind playing him. I don't love him, but I wouldn't mind him against Cleveland. You get a good price point, a pretty high upside spot as well. The position is not loaded for having 10 games. I mean, Lonzo Ball's up to 7,700, Dan. This is a dude who's attempting 1 free throw per game. Someone that's shooting 40% from the field and 45% from the charity stripe. He really needs big numbers elsewhere. And I think everyone got excited, right? That first game without LeBron and Rondo, he dropped 29 and 12, and we're all stoked. And then he's gone 35, 24, 23. We're going downwards here. And I just don't – is he a terrible play at that price point? No. Is he an essential play? Is he a priority? Absolutely not. Honestly, I would rather go to like Eric Bledsoe at 6,600, take the $1,100 discount. I know that's risky with the minutes, but I think he's going to get back up to the 30-plus minutes here, so I'm not too concerned about it. I would rather look further down. If you're looking for value, there's not a lot, but one guy that I'll continue to point out, DJ Augustine until his price comes up. 25 minutes last game, but that was a massive 28-point blowout. He's going to get more run in closer games if this game stays close. Has been producing well lately, higher usage, more potential assists. So I think he's a decent option in there at value at only 4,300, and his price continues to stay really low. And then aside from that, you don't have a whole lot of value here that's going to jump out at you unless you want to pay for Terry Rozier, and I don't think it's a crazy idea.
Well, that's sort of where I wanted to just get a quick take from. You have Rozier at 6,100, Moutier against the Lakers at 6K. I know Ball plays pretty good defense. But then you have Tyus Jones and your favorite, Thomas Satoransky at 5,800. Satoransky obviously getting a ton of run right now with Wall out, has put up back-to-back 30-plus. He had 43.75 last time out against Atlanta. Matchup here with the Heat. Any of these guys, what feels like maybe a weird price point with 6,100 down to 5,800, interesting beyond Rozier, or are you staying away from the other three?
So one thing I mentioned with Rozier is if you look at just his rates, usage, assist rate per minute with Irving off the floor this year, they're not very good. But then if you were to take the 3 games that Irving has been inactive entirely, not played, right? Not where Rozier is coming off the bench, but where he's completely inactive. Rozier has 32, 36, and 39 fantasy points. So he's been solid in those games. He's played 30-plus minutes in all of them. He's averaging around 33 minutes per game. I think if you're looking at him, and it's a good question, Dan, him, Satoransky at 5,800, and who was the other one? Moutier?
Moutier, yeah.
I think Moutier is a distant third here just because Fizdale looked like he was starting to settle into Moutier being his top guy. And then we saw against Denver, his former team, he played 32 minutes, which was nice. Moutier in tournaments is an interesting option here. It's a pace-up spot. Will it stay close? I don't know. Probably. The Lakers don't look good, and if Kuzma's out, that's more reason to think they could. Moutier is strictly a tournament play, though. Satoransky, unlike these two guys, is seeing more minutes. And, if this game is close, then I would expect, once again, for him to play upwards of 39 minutes, minimum 36 or so. And actually, Washington's playing decent basketball. Granted, the matchups haven't been that tough, but they beat Charlotte. They smoked Atlanta. With John Wall out, they haven't been that bad, and I'm not surprised. They'd actually been significantly worse with John Wall this year. Not to say that would have lasted, but numbers are numbers, fella. Satoransky's prices come up. He's no longer just that plug and play that he was, and this is a Miami team that defensively is a top 8 team. So I don't love him. I think if you want to take the huge minutes, you can, but I'm projecting him more for like 28-30 than 38-43 like we saw last game. So I'd put Rozier above all of them here. I think he's your safest bet to give you good numbers, and he's only $100 more than Moutier and $300 more than Satoransky.
All right, let's keep on rolling here. We can talk about point guards probably the entire time if we really chose to on a 10-game slate. But as you said, not as deep as we've seen often. So Dave will have all that right up over there in the deep dive, and we'll continue on here looking position by position. You do get game-by-game breakdowns on both the NBA Strategy Show in the morning, and then, of course, the deep dive brings that to you as well, getting you the in-depth look at each and every game over there on YouTube. You may be watching this on YouTube as well. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe and share. Share it over on Twitter. Share it on Facebook, and help us push those numbers up. As always, shooting guard, and it's so great that Brad Beal is now expensive because he leads off the position as the lone shooting guard eligible player. But 9,200 here on DraftKings, and was at 8,600 last time out, shot 9 of 20 from the field, 3 of 7, 42 points. Was hoping for a bit more out of him with Wall on the shelf. Not really sure how much we're going to get from Beal game in, game out. He's been a little enigmatic when he's been the lead dog there for the Wizards, but maybe you have some numbers to prove otherwise. Booker, Oladipo, we already talked about Russell. Luka Doncic is here at 7,400 with a tough matchup against the Boston Celtics. You mentioned Donovan Mitchell as somebody you wanted to touch on at point guard, then saved him for shooting guard, and we go on from there. On the top end, let's say Josh Richardson and above, who are some of your favorite plays, or do you feel like shooting guard's a position to maybe save some cash and find a cheaper option?
I think you can do both depending on the injuries, which, by the way, I forgot to mention a scenario player at point guard. Tyus Jones, Dan, is 5,800. He's right in that trio of other guys we were talking about. If Rose is doubtful, if Teague also sits, I'm going to be very interested in Tyus Jones here. And the reason is very simple. Minutes, massive, and we know that with Tom Thibodeau, even if this game blows out, I would not be surprised to see him still play like 36 minutes, right? Yep. They're only 6-point favorites, though. And with Tyus Jones, look, that matchup against Boston wasn't particularly easy. It wasn't so easy against Miami, and he put up solid numbers in all of them. I actually like Tyus Jones a lot in this home game against Orlando, just because I think he's a better per-minute guy. He's more reliable than Satoransky, because I know that the Washington Wizards are gutted, but so are the Wolves right now if Teague is out. And they have a much better matchup, much better home matchup than the Wizards do. So I would go Tyus. I actually like Tyus as much, if not more than Rozier here. I think they're both really good plays if Teague sits. All right, now that that's out of the way, because that's pretty important. You're right, though, with Bradley Beal. The reason he's enigmatic as the lead dog is because he's not Devin Booker. He's not, I don't know, obviously James Harden, but even guys in that tier where he's good. He's really good, but he's gonna have some disappointing games, and the reason for that is that a guy like James Harden cannot score 40 points and still give you a triple double, can still give you 8 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 blocks, or 3 steals. Beal's been solid when it comes to racking up steals. He's defensively, he's not been bad, but it's rare that you get more than 5 rebounds and 6 assists from him. So he does need to rely on the scoring totals. Like the triple double we saw in that triple overtime game is not something that we should expect routinely from Beal. Can he put up really solid games without Wall? No question. Does he have solid upside? Yeah. But how often are you relying on him to get you to 60? I just don't see that being the case. So now that he's up at 9,200, do you have his price on FanDuel?
I don't have it up, but I'll grab it.
All right. I'm not going to be forcing him into my lineups. I can tell you this much though: if Kyle Kuzma sits, Brandon Ingram would become a top play of mine for sure, because then this team is really depleted, and it's not unrealistic to think that Kuzma could sit here. I mean, it certainly seems like a scenario where after undergoing an MRI, we're dealing with a situation where they might want to play it safe with one of their better younger players. And if you were to take LeBron, Rondo, and Kuzma off the court this year, it only makes sense that Ingram would be putting up solid numbers. So I would expect huge minutes from him, very heavy usage, and plenty of assist opportunities here, because outside of Lonzo and maybe Lance Stevenson off the bench, there's nobody really to soak up that type of run. So Ingram to me is a guy that stands out as a potentially really, really solid option at only $6,800. And he's already been playing well with Kuzma in. So with him out, it's only 77 minutes this year with him, James, and Rondo out, 34% usage, 22% assist rate, 1.17 fantasy points per minute. And now he has a home matchup with the Knicks. It's just a spot that I wouldn't want to miss out on. And I may even play some lineups with him in there with the hopes that Kuzma sits and that we don't have that news, because even if he plays, I don't think 6,800 is a crazy price point.
So Beal is 9,700 over on FanDuel.
Yeah, I just don't think I'm going to go there. Is it an interesting, contrarian pivot because people will probably get off of him pretty hard in this matchup? It is, but I also think there's decent reason to get off of him. I'd rather, on DraftKings, Dan, I would much, and if you give me Booker's price point, so I'd much rather go to Booker. He's $9K, but he's $200 cheaper.
8,800 on FanDuel.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think that's a question. I played Booker over Beal the other night, Wednesday night, and a little bit scary, sure, but it definitely worked out. And the reason it worked out is because Devin Booker's a really good basketball player, and while his entire team might not be on ice, they're also they're also not very good. And he is clearly the guy there that gets the job done where everybody else doesn't. This is a Clippers team. I think not everyone, a lot of people still see them as being a team that plays pretty solid defense because they started the season off strong. But that has not been the case. I mean, since the start of December, they have one of the worst defenses in the league, Dan. They rank 28th in defensive rating, ahead of only the Knicks and Cavaliers since the start of December. They play at a top 10 pace. Everything kind of lines up very nicely here for Devin Booker to have a really, really huge game. You have to hope that it stays close, but it's in Phoenix, and the Clippers are favored by only 4 points in a 231 total game. Really like Booker here, especially at 8,800 on FanDuel.
All right. Makes a ton of sense. And I honestly, at first glance, didn't want anything to do with Beal just at that price point. So we'll see once roster construction comes around whether or not he makes a little bit of sense. But Ingram is somebody I've played a few times in the past couple of weeks with LeBron out. Obviously, that extra injury to Kuzma could push him forward as well. What else do you have here? You have somebody like Andrew Wiggins at 6,600. He's coming off of a season high 31 points. Just 38.5 total DraftKings points,
Exactly.
not getting those peripheral stats. So you'll stay away again?
Yeah, I don't think you need to pay that much for him. I really don't. Like, I'd still rather go Ingram even if Kyle Kuzma plays, right? Where he's shooting guard eligible. And you might have some really good value here if Kuzma's out. I mean, by the way, if he's out, then Lonzo Ball is also going to become a more of a priority play for me.
Josh
But
Hart at 60. Hart's price is up at 6,200. That seems, I know he has upside, but is that too pricey for you?
it is too pricey for me. And here's why. Look, his Hart played pretty well lately. Yeah. And we're seeing that he can actually be really solid when LeBron's off the court, not when he's starting in place of Ingram, but when he's starting in place of LeBron, you see that he can actually be a whole lot more appealing. Now, I also don't expect to see 15 rebounds, and I don't want to pay that much for him. I think that's just too much. I don't believe that his floor is high enough here or his ceiling. I'd honestly, if again Kuzma has to be out, but I'd much rather go to Lance Stevenson at like 3,600. Right, that would make sense. Contavious Caldwell Pope's prices come up a little bit. That's actually a lot bit, but his minutes have been up and he's actually playing pretty well. I'm not going to rule him out. If you have Kuzma, Rondo, and LeBron on the shelf, that's going to open a whole lot up. Lance Stevenson's the cheapest guy there that would make it work. But you also have so Dante Exum, if Rubio sits, that would be a pretty favorable spot. He's still sub 4K against the worst defense in the entire league. And then Josh Okogie let down a lot of people last time out. 24 minutes, 0 for 4 shooting, 13 points. I mean, I think you probably get away from him here, but there's also a chance, Dan, that Thibodeau gives him 38 minutes, and I would not be surprised. It's just hard to like him. If all of these injuries come to pass and they are, in fact, out, there's going to be much better value out there.
All right. Anything else here at shooting guard, or do you want to move on to small forward?
We'll do a little more research and save it for the deep dive.
All right, so let's move on next to small forward, where we do have Giannis, and then LeBron is out. Obviously, Paul George at 9,700 now. Prices continued to hover right in that 9K to 10K area. Last time out, 37 points. Not a ton of peripheral stats that time out against the Lakers. He did get booed by the Lakers home crowd, which was one of the funnier things you'll see. Not a player that left, but a player that may have once said he wanted to play in LA. May have once,
right?
and they booed him. But hey, teach your own there at Los Angeles. I'm sure Ring Rim was there.
Sure was.
Booing along with them.
Booing his heart out.
Oh boy, Ring Rim. One of the great stories of internet that we all thought his name was.
Yep, and then he changed it to it.
Amazing. So let's talk through here. You have Paul George at 97. Steep drop off then to Doncic at 74. We've talked about Kuzma and Ingram, Middleton, Aaron Gordon's here at 71. Danilo Gallinari's at 7K. Has had a very solid run over the past 3 games, shooting fairly well, playing minutes in the high 20s, low 30s. What do you got here? Obviously, Giannis against Atlanta. It's hard to imagine him busting here other than, like you said before, playing 27 minutes and just not giving you enough court time to really blow out that price tag.
Yeah, I still have to have some Giannis here. It's really that simple. But I would be surprised if he played more than 32 minutes. I really would, unless Atlanta somehow keeps it competitive. And look, that can happen. Stranger things have happened. Right. But I'm not going to go out there and I can't project him for like 35 minutes here. I just can't do it. I mean, 35, 36 minutes is the high range, the very high range of Giannis's playing time. So, no, not going to go there. You mentioned Doncic at that price point. He's seen a pretty steep drop in salary lately, right? He went from 87 to 81 to 78, down to 74. And it's not even that his production has suffered that much, but with Dennis Smith Jr. back a lot. People have been playing him a lot less, and he's been involved in consecutive blowouts where he's played much fewer minutes. it's not a bad price, but I still don't know if I'm going here. It's something interesting, and I pointed out a couple of times. Dallas on the road has been just horrendous compared to at home this year, and it's continued all the way through December into January. Well, we'll see if it's in January, but definitely through December. And while the price is down, I definitely still think, and this is the reason I liked Doncic a lot when Smith was out. There's no doubt that Smith takes away from Doncic's ceiling, because he is a good enough facilitator, and he's going to have more ball handling duties than what the hell was his name? What the hell is that dude? Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
Who was literally just standing there for 20 minutes.
That's what Danny Green did a good impersonation then of Jalen Brunson on Thursday night. He just he does not want to get involved in offense at all. It's pretty impressive.
I know it's really wild. It's funny too. Everyone wants to talk about like, oh yeah, DeMar DeRozan narrative. Look at that. Where was the Kawhi Leonard narrative game? Where was the Danny Green narrative game?
It's you have to understand the narrative cancels one another out. You have to carry the two.
Exactly. Right.
in the calculation. So.
Right, and it's definitely not possible that DeRozan just had a good game because he's a good player. I don't know. That's crazy. But come on, man. That type of stuff will get you into trouble, especially when you start projecting players for more fantasy points based on something that isn't tangible. Unless it's a Kobe Bryant retirement game, probably not super interested in it. So like if you're cheap enough, sure, it's like, okay, well, you have the narrative that doesn't hurt, but you're not going to play a guy specifically for that.
Of course.
Like I get people 3-game slate,
and the NBA, like the NBA of all the sports, the ball is in his hands, so he can take more shots. Like if that is
correct, it's not like hand-eye coordination with baseball. It's
right.
not going to get better with a narrative. I hear you, but it's like you still have to get inside of their head and say, do they actually care about having a great game here? Like Kawhi Leonard feels like the type of guy that would cave in that type of situation. Yep. And I could be totally wrong because I don't know him. I don't know what he's thinking. So I'd rather not even try. Back to this small forward position. James Johnson's kind of interesting because his price is back down below 4K, mainly because he's been terrible with no minutes lately. But I don't know how much of that is due to the fact that they've blown out Cleveland back-to-back games, 2 straight games blown out Cleveland. I might take some tournament shots on him at this price point because he had looked a lot better prior to that, and he had been playing a lot more minutes, and then it kind of just went out the window. But those were 2 big blowouts, and it's tough to say. Derek Jones Jr. saw monster minutes in both of those games, 25 and 31. And obviously he and James Johnson will cannibalize each other. So I don't know who's going to get the run here, but Johnson is back down below 4K against a really, really bad Washington defense. And that's the reason I bring it up, because this Washington defense has been just utter garbage, terrible rebounding team, can't protect the rim. I am impressed by Thomas Bryant, though. Maybe he can start to anchor them a little bit as they go forward, but they're still going to have a heck of a lot of holes. The question with Gordon Hayward is a big one, too. I mean, Gordon Hayward shot 14 of 18, by the way.
Yep.
14 of 18. And I don't want to say this, but he still only had 44 fantasy points.
Right.
I get that might sound silly on its face, but it's kind of not. 14 of 18, you would expect a huge game. At least I would. 1 rebound, 5 assists.
You'd expect the ball to find him for 4 or 5 rebounds, like just being out there on the court that much. But
yeah, 32 minutes. Like if Morris is out, can he play more minutes than that? Maybe, but I don't think he will. I don't think he will. It's possible. Maybe he sees like 36. He did earlier in mid-December. I don't hate him at 5,400. I'm just still not sold. Like the good games have been so few and far between, Dan, that it's tough to really rely on that. And I don't think there's really any way that, and watch, he's going to have 60. It's just really hard to see Hayward burning you if you don't play him.
Right.
And that's kind of what it comes down to.
That makes total sense. I think we've seen a couple of these guys on this slate who are score first and score only. You're not getting peripheral stats from them, so you really need that 30-point outing from them.
But he wasn't always that guy, you know?
No, he
He wasn't
hasn't been the best.
always.
But this is a different team. I mean, this Celtics team, and maybe with Irving off the court, with Irving and Morris out, maybe things change a little bit more in this second game with him out. But I don't know. I think the way this team's constructed, the way they play, you're not going to see much facilitation or extra peripheral stats from Gordon Hayward. But I could definitely be wrong, but I agree with you that I don't think he's going to make or break many lineups on this slate. I don't see.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just don't see gigantic upside. I don't see the steals, blocks, and assists coming here. That even with a 30-point outing, that it's going to put you over the top.
No, it's hard for me to see it too, and he hasn't really shown it. If 14 for 18 shooting is great, you would think I'd be like really encouraged by that. But if anything, I'm just a little bit more worried because now I kind of have to consider him. But I don't have any faith that he can repeat that because, well, you're not going to repeat a 14 for 18 shooting game. So you need to do more than that. And, as you said, he has kind of been just points, but really he's just kind of been nothing. I mean, he's disappearing in a lot of games, just completely off the face of the earth. With Irving and Morris off the court, he's played 194 minutes this year, 21% usage, 28% assist rate. That's nice. 11% rebounding rate and 1.02 fantasy points per minute. If you can do that, with those rates, near 30% assist rate, 11% rebounding, double-digit rebounding, that's good. I can deal with that. I just don't know if it'll be there. You might, if you're looking to target this, maybe you look at a Jason Tatum, but he's been wildly inconsistent as well. Right. Jaylen Brown has also been super inconsistent. I think one of them, I'll put it this way, if Morris is out, and we know Irving's out, I think one of these guys, whether it's Brown, Tatum, or Hayward's going to have a really good game. I just can't sit here and honestly tell you that I know which one of them it's going to be. I really don't.
All right. Any further discussion here at small forward or ready to power on to power forward? See, yeah, I used to do the move forward to small forward and power. That was a new one. Power on. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. That was, oof.
That was bad. That was
At least you didn't say power forward.
That would have been even worse. I'll save that one for next time.
It was real bad. Lance Stevenson, if Kuzma's out, that and I'll throw Okogie in there only because there really is not a lot of value here. I suppose you could look to a DeAndre Bembry or something, but I mean I just have no faith in Bembry to give you anything more than 25 or so fantasy points. And as you saw the other day, you actually DM'd me like these scores are crazy, right? With those type of scores, 25 fantasy points at 4,200 is not going to get the job done.
No, sir. Let's go to power forward next, where we may have some value. We may have some pieces here that should see some upside minutes. One guy that I'm pretty sure you called as a good play last time out, DeMarre Carroll had a very nice outing at 32.5 DraftKings points on the second. He has had a good run with the Nets. And it's funny, the Nets, all I've been seeing on Twitter, obviously I follow a lot of New York media, and, the Nets, a playoff team. I was like, well, they've won a bunch in a row, and I know they've been playing really well. They're still in ninth in the East.
It's still the Nets, you mean? Yeah.
Well, that is very true.
No, they're playing well, man. And I agree. It makes sense that they would start to slide, but they have some the pieces that they have will never win them a playoff round.
Right.
But they're a tough team to face because even if Carroll's going to start playing well, Joe Harris has been a glue guy. He's not a great player, but he's been good enough. And then Dinwiddie and Russell. And Jared Allen's good enough. Ed Davis is a decent enough backup when Rondé Hollis-Jefferson's playing and actually getting minutes. So, there are players. And Alan Crabb and Karis LeVert are both out, but LeVert was their top scorer on that team before he went down. I'll actually be interested to see if he kind of messes with the chemistry when he returns, which should be shortly.
All right, what do we got at the top end here, power forward, or wherever you want to start? But Giannis obviously eligible here. Paul George. I guess we get into the guys like John Collins, Harrell, Sabonis at 7K. If Turner will be, it seems like he's going to play, so that's probably a moot point. Lauri Markkanen's here at 6,500. What do you got as some of your favorites at power forward?
So yeah, I did say that Damari Carroll was poised to have a good game. I also said that John Collins could have a huge game here, and he really disappointed.
Yep.
Um, Now, he played 27 minutes. They lost by 16 points. That game got out of hand. 27 minutes is not what you're hoping for, right? He played 37 minutes the game before that. Foul trouble the game before that doesn't count. 39 minutes the game before that. Like, he was playing huge minutes and only played 27. He still had 1.35 fantasy points per minute. So look, I'm not going to say that, oh, he should have had this. I'm just saying that you prorate that out to 35 minutes and you got 47 from the guy. Did that happen? No. So we can't. And that's not what we got. But, 21, 8, and 3 across 27 minutes. The point here is that he's still a really good player. And given the amount of minutes that he played, still did not have a terrible game. He shot 4 or 5 from 3. John Collins is shooting only 31% from three-point range, but 58% from the field, and his rebounding totals have just been through the roof, like 24% rebounding since the start of December. It's nuts. Tough spot against Milwaukee. I think I'll have some, though, at this price at $7,500. His price has come down $700 since the last time he played. Prior to last game, he'd been an instant double-double. I get it's not a great matchup, and the blowout risk is real. So I'll only be using him in tournaments. But I still think that's a pretty interesting spot. And then, of course, Sabonis, if Turner is out, it looks like he could play, but we don't know. He should get the mask fitted and all that good stuff. But if he's out, Domantas Sabonis, it will be a good play. He'll also be chalk. And I don't think it would be crazy to fade him because he's not dirt cheap. I don't think he's going to play, 36 minutes or anything like that. And he's going to be really popular. So it might not be crazy to look elsewhere. We talked about Giannis. Paul George has been a guy I've been on pretty heavy lately because he's literally posting career highs in points, rebounds, assists, and steals, and yet still goes overshadowed by Westbrook and just other good players in this league. But George has been awesome this year. Probably not a spot I'm going to. Prices come up. You don't need to get there in this spot. Lauri Markkanen against Indiana. Interesting tournament-only play. I just think his price point's fair, but I'm not huge on the matchup. And I also think that this game has the potential to get out of hand. If we're looking at value here, I will throw Jaren Jackson out there. Of course, the one game I'm not talking about him.
That's right.
He goes off for 43, but it kind of just illustrates what I'm talking about, right? 26 and 10. Jaren Jackson can give you really big games at a price point that could really vault you to the top of the leaderboards. He played 35 minutes last game. If he's playing well, by the way, he did foul out in 35 minutes, but still got those 35 minutes.
35 minutes. That's a big leap forward for him.
I'll take that all day. He's a really interesting GPP only, of course. But like, if you're deciding between him and Gordon Hayward in tournaments, there's no question that I'd prefer Jaren Jackson there over Hayward. Because my guess is that Hayward's still going to have, especially if Morris is out, even if he isn't, I think Hayward will be relatively popular. I do. Kyle O'Quinn's eligible here. Don't expect to see huge minutes, but hell, even if the guy gets like 18 or 20, I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop 25 fantasy points. He's the dead min. Only reason I bring him up, he's 3K flat. And if Turner sits, that could make things interesting. But value here is kind of weak. Maybe you see somebody that I'm missing, but nobody stands out as a real cheap play that I'm loving.
No, I was just scrolling through trying to find something, not really seeing much of anything here. Obviously, injuries can happen, late scratches. Well, hopefully not too late of scratches, but might open something up. But as I said, you have Damari Carroll. You have a crazy minutes for Derek Jones last time out, wasn't it? Shouldn't he have played like 5? I feel like his 31 minutes was.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was saying. Like him and James Johnson.
Okay.
Johnson, well, look at the last two games for Jones and Johnson. Big minutes in both for Jones, nothing for Johnson. And both were blowouts, though, both against that same Cleveland team. So I'm not going to read too much into that.
Okay.
But I'm also not particularly high on Derek Jones either.
I don't know if I can live in a world where both Markieff and Marcus Morris aren't playing, but I think we'll have to figure that. Both with neck.
I think I'll be okay.
Both with neck injuries, nonetheless. Must be that twin thing, that weird connection they have.
Could be. Possible.
If Narrative Street exists, this one does as well.
Exactly.
Centers up next. We have Karl Anthony Towns still sitting below 10K. Has had a fairly solid run over his last 4 games. Has a matchup here with Orlando. You have Nikola Vucevic, who has been dynamic on offense, had 52.5 DraftKings points last time out. He's $600 less on DK against Cat. Then you have Gasol against Brooklyn. I always love bringing it up, but playing centers against Brooklyn has been a winning formula for a couple of years now. I know Jared Allen's been playing good defense, had some great blocks over the past couple of weeks against LeBron and AD and so on, but Gasol at 8,100 shouldn't be in line for a big game here. Nurkic coming off his gigantic 5x5. He did go to overtime to get it, but 24 points, 23 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 blocks, 5 steals in that 113 to 108 game against Sacramento. So lots to like here at the top end. What do you got? Who are some of the names that maybe Sabonis up you like here on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, the Orlando Magic have actually done a decent job at containing centers this year. But you're not going to convince me that Vooch has transformed into a stellar defensive player.
Right.
He hasn't. I'm not worried about this for Towns at all, actually. The guy is still under 10,000 on DraftKings, which blows my mind. Even at 10.6 on FanDuel, I think that's very reasonable. And I just don't see how you get away from this here. He's now played 70 minutes with Rose, Teague, Butler, and Covington off the court. He has a 40% usage rate, 20% assist rate, 17% rebounding rate, and 1.76 fantasy points per minute. Yeah, not bad, right? If you were to just take Rose, Teague, and Butler off the court and have Covington on, those minutes or the production is still astoundingly good. And something very interesting about Towns, I pointed this out before last game, and I really thought we were going to get more from him. Don't get me wrong, 56 isn't terrible, but I thought we were on pace for more. He slowed down a bit in the fourth quarter. He went into the fourth quarter with, I think, 21 or 23, 9, and 7. He was a rebound and 3 assists shy of a triple-double. Look at his assist rate over the past few games with Rose and Teague out. He is doing the heavy lifting there. 7, 6, and 7 rebound or assists. So if you have Towns, who has been scoring and rebounding like a madman, blocking shots like crazy, now he's averaging around 10, 11 assist opportunities per game.
Wow.
How do you not love that? But yeah, he's played 178 minutes with Rose, Teague, and Butler off the court. Take Covington out of there so we can get a bit more of a sample. 34% usage, 25% assist rate, 18.8% rebounding rate, and 1.69 fantasy points per minute. I just don't see at this price point any way that we can take him off the board. He's a phenomenal play. And Vooch on the other side has also been great. It's just I have to prioritize Towns here. I'm not discounting the fact that Vooch is averaging a career high in points, a career high in rebound. Well, sorry, he 11.9 rebounds per game in 2012, 11.8 this year. Career high in assists, career high in steals, just pretty much everywhere. His usage rate sits at 27.5%, also a career high. His rebounding rate is at a career high, and his assist rate is easily a career high. So all of the, it's very rare that you have a center with usage of 25 or higher, right, and an assist and rebounding rate of 20 or higher. He's at 27, 20.8, and 21.8. That's pretty wild. So I like him. And maybe you run back some Towns and Tyus lineups with some Vooch. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think you need to play Giannis or Westbrook to win. So I'm not discounting that, because Vooch has been spectacular. But if it's between Towns or Vooch, I've got to go with Towns with those ridiculous numbers.
All right, where else do you see yourself at the top end? Is Marc Gasol somebody you'll be looking at, or do you think the price point of 8,100 advanced age here for the big guy a problem against this Nets team?
No, I think Marc Gasol is fine, but I think I'm a little bit more intrigued by a guy that's $300 cheaper than him, and that's DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's rebounding totals have come up significantly lately. His usage has risen, 4 or 5% over the past several weeks. Actually, oddly enough, since Booker returned is when he started playing so much better. We're seeing some great numbers here, and we're not getting blocked shots. I expect them to come with time as well. Ayton is an incredible athlete. He's going to be a great player. Was a number 1 overall pick for a reason. His minutes are back up to big minutes again. Rashawn Holmes not really stealing anything away. I think Ayton here against this Clippers team that we talked about earlier, terrible defensively, makes for a really, really interesting play. It's a Clippers team on the season, by the way, Dan. It's allowing the second most points to centers. Believe it or not, second most points. I guess it makes sense, though. You got Gortat, Boban, and then Harrell's just undersized in some spots, even though he's feisty and gave Embiid a lot of more than he could handle at times the other night. It's still actually a very good spot for opposing centers, and a pace-up team with the Clippers, a defense that ranks bottom 3 over the past 30 days. Kind of everything about this lines up really nice for Ayton. And from an efficiency standpoint, there's a Clippers team that's allowing the 4th highest efficiency to the position as well. Ayton's looked better. This matchup is great. They're only 4-point dogs at home in the highest total game of the night. And he's an athletic big. What's there not to like?
Makes sense to me. And price point that obviously saves you some cash off the top. Anybody else here mid-tier that you think at least is intriguing? You get into the likes of John Collins, who we've already talked about a bit at power forward. You got Hassan Whiteside, Steven Adams. DeAndre Jordan continues to have a price point below $7K. You always know there's rebounding upside with him. Maybe not the point scoring of late, but he's at 6,400. Anybody in this mid-tier at least worth mentioning here?
It's so tough with the guys we have up top. I guess I have to mention Hassan Whiteside, only in tournaments because his minutes are so volatile. But the upside in this spot, if he gets off to a hot start, Whiteside could go crazy against this Washington team. It's really risky. The position is really deep. You don't need to go there. But just keep in mind that if you're looking for some leverage potentially in tournaments, we know that Hassan Whiteside, if he gets off to a really hot start out of the gate, can put up some huge numbers. And there's no better team to do it against than the worst without Dwight Howard rebounding team in the league. Aside from that, if we're talking about some value here, well, I guess the question is, are we okay with paying for Thomas Bryant? He's up to 6,000. I don't think that's crazy. I don't love this spot though. I probably won't have a ton of him here, only because I think you can still get better options here at a similar price point at other positions. So I don't see myself getting there. One guy that I did want to talk about before we head out, JaVale McGee, coming off a solid 3 straight games. But the minutes are super low. So I don't know. He's shooting a lot though, Dan, right? Like he's jacked up 34 shots over his last 3 games with LeBron out. Not bad,
Not the guy I would have said, hey, he's going to get the shots up, but sure.
Yeah, right, double-digit shots, averaging double-digit shots in those 3 games. He's a great shot blocker, a quality rebounder. JaVale McGee's interesting. The lack of minutes is definitely concerning, but right now it's tough to find value here. It's very likely that I'm probably going to be paying up in the position.
All right. Any other topics and or takes you want to dispense before we go to our final question of the show?
Not that I can think of, man. I'm all worn out.
Well, good to know. Let's hit it then. Where are you starting? Is it Giannis or is it Westbrook?
I don't know if it's either of them.
Well, sure. Well, answer the question, Dave.
Well, I think it's only fair to preface it like
Did
that,
we ever
right?
say this was fair? Did I ever say this is supposed to be fair? No, obviously I want that take, but between the two, if you had to start between one of the two, we'll start there and then you can preface away.
All right. I'm going to go Westbrook here at even money, 223.5 total in Portland at the Moda Center. Um, I like the minutes here. You're looking at 38, 39 minutes if this game is as close as it should be, which it should be. These are pretty evenly matched teams when Portland's playing at home. Giannis is a really tough, difficult player to ignore against Atlanta. He could triple-double in 3 quarters, and I regret this statement, but just consider this. He's $400 more expensive than Westbrook on DraftKings. He's $900 more expensive than Westbrook on FanDuel. That's a big difference there, 12.5 to 11.6. But the reason I was prefacing that is I think a bunch of my lineups are going to be started with Karl Anthony Towns just based on the ridiculous volume, the huge uptick in facilitating responsibilities, and the guaranteed minutes here. Even if it's a blowout, I'd expect him to get at least 33, 34 minutes of run. So Karl Anthony Towns at 9,900 on DraftKings, still sub 10K, has the 70 plus fantasy point upside here. He has 55, 70, 86, and 70 over his last 4 games. It's hard not to love him at that price point.
All right. Don't forget, you find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford. Of course, it's at Osmo_com. Again, use that promo code EarlyBird. You see it on the screen here on YouTube. You should be able to find it pretty easily over on iTunes as well to get 1 week for free. Also, as always, share the podcast on social media, rate it, and leave a comment on iTunes. Like it and subscribe and leave a comment over on YouTube. Happy to read them here on the podcast as we go through. Tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, you get EMAC and you get Adam here on the Early Bird. You get Lofty on Sirius XM from 5 to 7 on Saturday, 7 to 9 on Sunday. That's still the time with the playoffs, sir.
That's right.
Okay. And if you so choose, you can find me on FNTSY Radio 8 to 10 Saturday morning talking NFL. With that
Sorry,
said,
I was tweeting someone. No, it's not the time. It's 5 to 7 on Saturday, Eastern.
Right, I got that. And then Sunday.
8 to 10 a.m. on Sunday. We're doing
you're the morning.
Pregame on Sundays through the playoffs. Yep.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. Getting up early.
It's going to be brutal. But not a bad time slot.
No, not at all. Plenty of people out there listening. And if you're playing DFS, we have content for the NFL, of course, up for the 4 games happening this weekend. So with that said, wish you the best of luck. Check you back here on the DFS Early Bird.